Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Free Will by Sam Harris. Um, before we get into this book actually broke my brain a little bit because this book kind of, to be fair, I was more like a Jordan Peterson guy than a Sam Harris guy, and this book actually pulled the rug out of me because if indeed this book is right, it changes a lot of things for me at least because. But to be fair, I really buy the idea that he's trying to propose in this book because uh, so according to his argument, free will is myth, and so basically that's the gist of the whole book. And his backing is that so basically, according to the neurological uh, scientific evidences, that before you make any kind of decisions, if you were just strapped into the right machines, and if your brain was just monitored by a group of scientists, before you do a task, they'll know exactly what you're doing. And even before you pick, like for example, if you had a choice and if you get to pick something, and the scientists who are behind the screens, they'll probably know what exactly are you going to be picking. And if that's the case, then even before if they know even before you're deciding, like, so these choices that you make, it's not conscious, is it now? And if it's not conscious, then it's deep into the unconscious. I don't, and it's from what he says, we don't know where the unconscious thoughts come from. And if we don't know where the unconscious thought comes from, so who makes the choice? Like, you're definitely not making the choice, and the choice just happens to be made for you from somewhere else. And if that's the case, where does freedom of choice come in? And he did say that it's like, okay, it's different from politics, but like it's like it's a different like this free will as a personal individual philosophy is is a bit different from like it doesn't take the importance from the political freedom that we need in a society, is what he mentioned. And I, yeah, that's fair enough. But the thing is that we if if there is no free will, then it feels like most of the Western philosophy is nothing, because the idea is that everyone is free to make their own choice, and um, you get to live your own life basically as an individual. So if you're not making these choices, then these choices are made for you, and then you just get to experience. Because while reading this book, the only scene that came to my mind is made in the movie Matrix, where the main character talks to the Oracle, and he's like, "Oh, you know what choice you're going to be making. Sorry, you must know what choice I'll be making." And then the Oracle says like, "Oh, wouldn't be much of an Oracle if I didn't." And it's not that you're trying to make the choice, you're just trying to live through and understand why you made that choice. And it was something when you try to connect the dots like that, because in that case you'd just be a simulation, isn't it? Because you don't know where the thoughts are coming from and where it's the next thought is coming from. You don't have any control over that. And things that you don't have control over, it's not you, it's not authored by you. But at the same time, so here's what it gets complicated for me, at least personally, because he said, like, for example, if there's a back pain and you choose to go to a doctor, and he mentioned like the thought of going to a doctor, it did not come from you. It's just a responsive mechanism that responsive action that appears from the unconscious as well. And then, but the thing is that if it if it if it if it is really even things, a response action is from the unconscious. So let's say I just choose not to go to a doctor. What does that mean? So he did make an argument where he says like just not doing anything doesn't change the fact that you don't get to exercise your freedom just because you choose to not just do the opposite of what you would actually do. And but I don't see, because the unfolding of life is very dependent on the option that you make. For example, let's say I go out today and anything could happen, and then maybe I'd run into someone important, or maybe I could be hit by the bus or something, and it does have an consequence to it. So I just don't understand. It's gonna be like a cascading events basically, and but I do to a certain extent understand what he's trying to say, because it says like all the actions that you're going to make is gonna be unconscious and you don't know where it's coming from. So like so I guess it's like the unconscious puts you in a situation where you're more inclined to do certain things, and then when the unconscious just pushes, like I thought, okay, go for a walk, and then if the so the unconscious just gives an action for you to do, and then you consciously carry out that action as well, and then something happens in real life, and all of the response maybe is just again from the unconscious as well. So it's just it's a real confusing thing to understand, because I really wonder what happens if people were convinced that freedom of choice, uh, free will doesn't exist, because the Western philosophy is like work hard and you get to make it in your life. And if indeed working hard was really not your choice, and sorry, not a choice, like something that if you didn't make that choice, it's just unconsciously you were inclined to work. And if that's the case, you don't take the credit for it. And if you were a criminal, you were just unconsciously inclined to do violent things. And in that case, the word that he used in the book was just a poorly calibrated human brain or something, and which really stuck with me, it because I was having an argument with my friend earlier about how we believed we had differences with sentencing people to death with crime, and this and the my my friend who was from the Western world seemed to believe that killing people, like we don't have the right to take another person's life, which is probably true. But maybe if they committed a violent crime, they probably deserve to die, is what I said, because I'm a third worlder, and if because I feel like that's the best way to keep something safe if a seriously violent crime has been made, because I believe in free will. And if that's the case, then you made that choice and you forfeit your right to live, is what I thought. And after reading this book, I was like, maybe I was wrong, because it just got complicated for me after that point. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if people were always inclined to do that, like because of another incident that caused by someone else's subconscious. Like for example, he mentioned a case study where uh, five crimes were committed, and each person had a different reason for committing the crime, and the last two were just mentally ill people with tumor in their brain. But the result of all five crimes were a woman dying. So how do you differentiate? How do you like categorize the level of personal responsibility you could give for each category even though the result of all the accidents were the same. Sorry, all the result, which is the death of a woman, were the same. So he was trying to make an argument like that. But the thing is that if a society chooses to, the main point that I got was that if people were always inclined to do what they were doing, then there is such a thing called fate. It's I feel like fate is the opposite thing of free will, and if things were always meant to happen like that, then I feel like I'm trying to see this politically because if someone is on the right wing and someone is on the left wing, they're always meant to have that clash. It's like so there is no point in trying to be this person in the middle because people always on the right were meant to be on the right and people on the left were always meant to be on the left because if someone went from right to left or left right, it's in some sense it's going to be like a glitch in the matrix basically because it's suddenly from your subconscious perspective you've gone from one side to the other, and I don't know how that works because I just couldn't wrap my head around that because if things were always so personally if you were always meant to be a certain way, then you were always meant to be this, and you're just as you go along you're just living this life, and you just maybe along the way you'll see why you lived such a way, whatever choice you make. You just as you go you understand why you do what you do. Is that what it's just maybe it's just too hard to understand because it's just like the idea is not very leaping, but his explanation of these ideas were very good. It put me on a rabbit hole basically, and but for some reason I still think that you still have to live your life as if it is you have free will because I feel like it just gives you a moral ground to act good by volunteering or something. It's just I I really have a hard time trying to really understand this because when the main idea changes, things around those main ideas have to be reconciled with for me in my head as well. So what does it like for example, let's say I understand free will and his perspective entirely. So what does it mean for me as free will? Like I probably have things that I do that makes me think uh like for example, let's say I choose to play football, and if I play football, am I experiencing freedom of choice, my free will, or am I just doing something that I'm inclined to do, like as always? So if if that's not freedom of choice, then and if it's not free will, what exactly is it then? And because I've always tried to uh, see where my free will exists, and then if this is in case true, I've been running around for no reason basically, and I'm just saying it's a really good book. I really think people should read this, and but yeah, it wasn't a demoralizing book, but overall it's just put me in a rabbit hole basically. But I really think people should read it, and if you have any perspectives, you can comment as well. But yeah, thank you.